Today we're here to talk about the monetization of web contents. Hopefully over the course of this discussion we'll come up with some other ideas from our awesome panelists on how you can even take it to the next step and do even more. For people who are just starting off with creating their online content, what is like the most basic way for them to get started as far as monetizing content?
You need to have a lot of content, and that's because you need to give yourself time for your audience to find you.
Something that the YouTubers have really figured out is these people who have, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, is that keeping the production costs very low is going to ensure that you can, have a sustainable channel and keep producing content.
But you're not going to make money off of your YouTube channel until you've been able to develop a partnership with YouTube, until you've been able to develop your audience.
Some people will do better on Blip because there's a great community there. Some people will do better on YouTube because there's volume there. The choices that you make have to really fit your content, and you need to make them early.
What is the brand you're actually creating? What types of web series might you create in the future? What's your audience and demographics?
I get a lot of projects pitched to me where people are like, oh, and this brand would be great for it, and we can go to this brand, and most of the time it's Accent, an alcohol company. And you're not gonna get a brand, specifically those brands on board, unless you have a lot of views already, unless you've already proven yourself that you can do something, or that you have an audience who's willing to follow you and see what it is that you're creating as well.
You need to figure out before you even start, before even pre-production, what do you want out of this? Is it sort of a calling card to, oh, look at, I can do this, A to Z type of content creation? Is it getting a brand on board? Is it being a big YouTube content creator? Is it having a big web series? And those are all going to sort of dictate, where you start, who you have in it, who you reach out to.
So just because, to Mark's point, just because you've already produced it without necessarily that plan of what to do with it next, that doesn't mean that all is lost.
Oh, no, I feel bad.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't make anybody think you're done.
No, not at all. You have to start somewhere, and as Brandon mentioned, it's to get that meeting with the head of Coca-Cola based on your one idea for a web series without anything produced is extremely unlikely to happen unless he happens to be your father.
And even then.
And even then.
So let's say you've created a web series, you've created a YouTube channel, you've developed a following, you're starting to get some hits and some constant views. What do you need to know as far as kind of the marketing lingo or speak about demographics or, males 18 to 34 or women 25 to 45? Like, what are some of the key things that you need? CPM rates, like what are some of the key things that you need to know?
I think the main thing is you can show I have an engaged audience, even if it's a small audience. They're very loyal. They're waiting for the next episode. They're excited about the content, and really building a story out of your content.
An advertiser is going to care a lot about the numbers, and you're never going to sell them on the best concept in the world if you don't have the numbers to support that, and you can't deliver them the audience that they need.
Is you need to know your audience. I think that a big important thing, especially as you're building, is you need calls to action. You need to tell people to follow you on Twitter. You need to tell people to follow you on Facebook. Subscribe to your channels as you're building this channel.
If it sounds like a full-time job, it is.
Yeah.
It's nonstop. I mean, the content creators that I work with, they upload a video and they sit there and they comment and they read the comments for hours and hours and hours, and they respond on Twitter and they respond on Facebook and they interact with, it is non-stop. You always have to be there. You always have to be present and remind. You have to there's so much content out there. You have to constantly be reminding people, not in a spammy way, but just in like, I'm here, remember me, here's my content, here's, a cool article I read, here's, it's constant interaction and engagement.
Well, and that's something that at least I've been told brands are looking for too, is not just numbers, but they want to see that engagement with audience, because brands are looking to engage their brand with those people.
Copyright is such a difficult thing online. Someone might copy you, but I can speak definitely to the YouTube audience. That's actually a good thing because they generally are promoting you as well.
And you have all the same rights in copyright and everything else in new media internet land that you do in the real world. People can always steal your stuff, and it's stealing. and you can go after them. And I think something that's unique to sort of the new media space, which is there's this community that really frowns upon that kind of thing.
I would say that the community is what's really going to protect you. There is a jewelry maker who has a store on Etsy, and Urban Outfitters blatantly ripped it off. I mean, even like the metal that they used is the exact same thing.
Literally the same.
And she put it out there, and she wasn't a huge store on Etsy. I mean, she certainly was doing well, but she didn't have a gigantic following. But she put it out there, and the community really, the internet really rallies against things like that. And so it was brought to their attention, and I believe they're working on settling something like that.
The community is really amazing, but it's scary. I mean, you're putting it out there, anyone can take it down and re-upload it, and but there are ways, especially for big companies, music industry, to actually make money and to work with the content creators.
With respect to what SAG's doing a lot to combat digital theft on a very high level. We're doing a lot of stuff in Washington and a lot of sort of legislative action, but sort of on the day-to-day. When there is stuff that's in violation of copyright, we will go and talk to the copyright holder and work with them to try and get it taken down. I mean, they're the possessor of those rights. On top of that, actors have something called a right of publicity, which is sort of a right into their own image and likeness, and that's another defense mechanism against people stealing your image and using it without your permission. So.
As well as working their butts off to sign as many new media producers and content creators as possible to be under the SAG New Media contract, so that if a project does move forward, God forbid, that those actors will then be protected. So let's say that same content is then used for a DVD, or maybe it even makes a pilot or something like that. Those actors are still going to be protected against that, and even agents like myself, we want that for you as well, so that if it's that project was successful online and they want to make a TV show out of it, they should be using the same people, because that's what made it good.
And sadly, as a web content creator, you're not just responsible for creating the content and letting it live. You're also responsible for your marketing plan. You're also responsible for your business plan. You're also responsible as a casting executive, as a development executive. You have a ton of additional responsibilities, because a lot of times it's a one-man band out there.
I think there's this myth out there that people think, I make a web series and all of a sudden, I'm going to make a lot of money, I'm going to be successful. If you look at film and television, I mean, it's crazy. You know how many pilots were shot this year for TV? I mean, it's like 90 or something. Pick up like 15. So, I mean, you got to keep at it, and you got to keep building. And the more content you have out there, regardless of how long it's been out, if you keep adding to that library, sooner or later, this begins to build, and you build a business out of it.
All right, we actually are at the end of our time. So without further ado, let's give our panelists a big round of applause.